Hey everybody, welcome back to James Draws Everything. Almost finishing up, getting close to the end. Every country in the world's flag. Back into North Africa today, and got a big one. We're going to be doing the country of Egypt. And of course Egypt, extremely ancient, right? One of the very first advanced civilizations in all of world history. So we got a big one as far as the history lesson. Luckily, this Egyptian flag has something kind of complex in the middle of it to at least give me a little bit of time here to go over that history. Other than that, though, it is kind of similar to what you've already seen with these Arab flags. But let's get down to it. Let's get her done. So, of course, Egypt. Hundreds of years, before Christ's time, already a very big part of the world. Pharaohs, pyramids, all that good stuff. Sits on the Nile River, so early civilization. Of course, the Nile is going to be very important for transporting goods and or services. And of course, good for for agriculture as well. Mostly isolated from the rest of Africa, due to basically just kind of being surrounded by deserts. So that sort of allows it to become one of the world's great civilizations. And we're talking around 3,200 BC. Series of dynasties rule in Egypt for about 3 millennia. They fall to the Persians in about 341 BC, and then the Greeks come in, the Romans, the Byzantines. Much later on, the Arabs introduce Islam and the Arab language in the 7th century. Right, so with Alexander the Great, you think of Alexandria in Egypt. That's who that's named after. So at the cultural crossroads, right, North Africa, kind of between the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. And the Mamluks take control around 1250. And the Mamluks were basically like a class of slaves that revolted against their masters, and then they ruled Egypt. So that covers most of the ancient history of Egypt. The Ottomans come in around 1517. They conquer Egypt, the Ottoman Turks, and this is where you sort of start to see kind of those the trade route politics really become front and center in Egyptian diplomacy and politics. Right, so you got the Suez Canal that's completed in 1869, and basically the entire world, takes an interest in Egypt at that point, because getting goods, through that part of Africa instead of going, all the way around is extremely important, to connect the East and the West. Very similar to the Panama Canal that comes a little bit later. So you get a lot of foreign influence in Egypt around this time. A lot of people, they want to protect their investments in this new trade route. So Britain seizes control of Egypt's government in 1882, even though they're still allied with the Ottoman Empire. But remember, the Ottoman Empire is kind of on its last legs, right, in the end of the 19th century, sort of leading into World War I. So World War I, there's a lot going on there. A lot of it is European politics, but a lot of it is also kind of the result of some of the Russo-Turkish wars that begin to kind of encroach, on the Ottoman Empire and their sovereignty. Egypt actually does have a bit of an interest in the Ottomans not being around anymore, right? So they kind of buddy up with the British a little bit, and then they kind of don't. They gained partial independence from the UK in 1922, and then full sovereignty in 1952. Right? So Egypt, kind of hard to sort of explain their relationship with the Turks, right? So it's not like sort of like a united Muslim world there. The Turks were kind of practicing like a more secular form of Islam, post World War One. You also have sort of the rise of the State of Israel, going into World War II, and Egypt and Israel, they're at odds for quite a big chunk of the 20th century, right? And a lot of that, there's a big crisis with like the Palestinian population, when the British were mandating that before the creation of the Zionist State of Israel. And Egypt, doesn't really want the refugees in their country, so that causes a lot more problems as well. There's some disputes over the Sinai Peninsula, and yeah, this is where stuff gets a little rough for Egypt. The British evacuate the Suez in 1956. There's a bit of a Cold War crisis there. And meanwhile, rapid industrialization is modernizing Egypt, oil as well. So they have a bit of an issue, kind of keeping things going. And Egypt, they do have like kind of a short-formed state with Syria, right? They have like a united Arab state. That's why their flags are pretty similar too. And this is kind of where Arab socialism comes from, right? So this does put them at odds with a lot of their Arab neighbors as well, because with like oil discoveries and stuff, they have like this vision of like a united Arab world under a socialist banner, so they all get to share the oil. And the people who have the oil are like, wait a minute, you don't get a say in this. So does kind of put them at odds a little bit. This is where you sort of you see a lot of Cold War kind of battle lines drawn between like the allies of the United States in the Middle East, and then like the allies of the Soviet Union in the Middle East. So Egypt was a little bit more friendly towards the Soviets for a period of time. And yeah, it's kind of put them at odds with the United States. Of course, during the Carter administration, they signed some peace agreements, the Camp David Accords there, with Israel, to kind of put them back in the good graces. They do go through a period of political instability, right, with kind of, some people that think that they shouldn't be buddying up with, the Western world, like some, Islamic extremists. They assassinate one of their presidents. So, yeah, a bit of a topsy-turvy place. Getting more into the modern times with like the Arab Spring revolts. Those hit pretty hard in Egypt, right, along with a lot of the Middle East. So that kind of throws their government more into turmoil. So you get like a lot of labor strikes. They oust President Mubarak in 2011, which leads to the military taking control for about a year. And then the Muslim Brotherhood gets a candidate in office, so you have a bit of a backlash, right? Egypt in the modern times, 20th, 21st century, it's kind of been one of those countries that kind of swings from one extreme to the other. And in recent times, it's really no different. So you do have, which I'm sure are Western encouraged protests against that particular government, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Egyptian Armed Forces. They do remove President Morsi from power in 2013. They replaced him with an interim president, and then they kind of start cracking down on, free speech, freedom of assembly and expression, things like that. So it does lead to a new constitution in 2014, and they elect a former defense minister, El-Sisi, Abdel Fattah El-Sisi, I believe I pronounced it right, and he is still the president today. So, very, very complicated history, right? It's when you're talking about millennia here, it's hard to crunch all that into one episode, but yeah, that's Egypt. So, what is that flag about? Well, you've got those colors of the Arab League, in the middle here. That's a golden eagle of Saladin facing the hoist side. It's got a shield on its chest with a scroll bearing the name of Egypt in Arabic. And it's on a white band. The white is the bright future. Well, actually, I got to go in order here for the Arab liberation. So, overcoming oppression is the black, through the bloody struggle, which is the red, to be replaced by a bright future, which is white. And again, Syria's is extremely similar because they were so closely tied in the 20th century. Similar to Iraq as well. Iraq, Ba'ath Party, Arab socialists, and similar to Yemen too. And Yemen, one of the only fully communist states in the Middle East for a period of time there. So that is the flag of Egypt. So let me know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next episode.